Fort Ridge military base wakes up each morning with the same rhythm, sharp orders, marching boots, and absolute discipline. Among its rigid walls, Lieutenant Mara Hale has always been known as the quiet one, the soldier who speaks only when necessary, the one who never seeks attention. But today, a single moment changes everything. During a morning briefing, Major Rowan lays out the updated strategy for an upcoming training operation. His tone is final, unquestionable. Yet Mara, studying the terrain map carefully, notices a critical mistake, a route that puts the team straight into a blind valley. She doesn't raise her voice, she simply states, "Sir, that path is unsafe. The elevation drop makes us vulnerable." The room goes silent. No one ever challenges Major Rowan, especially not a junior lieutenant. The major freezes, his jaw tightening. His pride stings far more than her correction. In front of everyone, he snaps, "Lieutenant Hale, my office." Now whispers follow her down the hallway. Soldiers exchange glances, some sympathetic, others curious. Mara keeps her face calm, her steps controlled, but inside she feels a storm gathering. She knows Rowan's reputation. He doesn't punish mistakes. He crushes them. Inside the office, Rowan doesn't hide his irritation. He lists her violations with sharp, clipped words: insubordination, disrespect, improper conduct. Every accusation is meant to break her confidence. But Mara stands at attention, expression unreadable, responding with steady, "Yes, sir." Rowan decides he will make an example out of her. He orders her personal service file, intending to finalize a disciplinary action severe enough to stall her. Career: he expects a thin folder with small mistakes. He has no idea that the file he's about to open contains the truth that will unravel everything he believes about her. Knock on the office door breaks the tense silence. A young private steps in, holding a thick, sealed folder with a red stripe across the top, classified personnel file. Rowan barely glances at the soldier. He snatches the file as if it's nothing more than paperwork confirming Mara's guilt. Mara stands still, hands behind her back, eyes fixed on a point on the wall. She knows what's inside that file, but she never uses her past to defend herself. Rowan, however, opens it with the confidence of a man ready to stamp a punishment he believes she deserves. The first page stops him cold. His eyes widen slightly, the irritation draining from his face as he reads the bold lines: Operation Iron Valley, Lieutenant Mara Hale, Field Medic, Sole Survivor, Silver Star for Gallantry, Under Fire, directly responsible for rescuing 19 wounded soldiers during active combat. He flips to the next page, faster this time. His heartbeat ticks louder in his ears. Detailed reports describe scenes he can barely imagine. Mara performing battlefield surgery under sniper fire, dragging injured men through mud and shrapnel, refusing evacuation after her own injuries. She had been part of missions so dangerous most soldiers never returned. Rowan's annoyance turns into disbelief. This wasn't the record of an average lieutenant. This was the record of someone forged by chaos and war, someone who had already survived more than most officers ever would. He looks up briefly at her, standing quietly, almost small, and wonders how he never noticed. The file grows heavier with every page he turns. His confidence fades, replaced by an uneasy realization. He wasn't reviewing a problem soldier. He was reading the history of a silent legend, one he almost destroyed without even knowing who she truly was. Major Rowan turns the pages with a growing sense of unease. Each report feels heavier than the last, each line revealing a side of Mara he never imagined. The next section describes Operation Winter Echo, a mission he vaguely remembers hearing about, the one where an entire rescue team was ambushed in sub-zero temperatures. The report states, in precise military language, that Mara carried 2 wounded soldiers on her own for nearly 4 kilometers. through enemy fire and freezing winds, refusing to abandon them even when frostbite began to set into her fingers. There's a photograph attached, a younger Mara, face covered in soot and dried blood, holding an .4 line in one hand while firing with the other. Her eyes look the same as they do now, calm, disciplined, unshaken. Rowan swallows hard. He flips to the psychological evaluation. One line stands out like a punch to the chest. Avoids attention due to trauma-linked humility. Suppresses emotions to maintain focus during critical missions. Suddenly, her behavior makes sense. The silence, the calm, the refusal to engage in conflicts or ego-driven arguments. She wasn't trying to defy him earlier. She was doing exactly what years of hard missions had taught her. Speak only with purpose. Act only with precision. Rowan realizes he had mistaken her quiet, strength for arrogance. Then he reaches a page that nearly stops his breathing. The incident at Red Canyon, where Mara refused helicopter evacuation after being shot, choosing instead to stay with a trapped squad until reinforcements arrived. Her actions saved the entire team. He closes his eyes for a moment. The woman standing in front of him wasn't just disciplined. She was someone shaped by loss, courage, and impossible choices. Her silence wasn't the problem. It was the very thing that had kept dozens of soldiers alive. Major Rowan sits frozen, the file open in front of him like a confession of everything he failed to see. He turns one more page, expecting another mission report, but instead finds a sealed appendix marked Restricted Access, Command Only. He hesitates, then opens it. Inside is a detailed account of Operation Black Ridge, a disastrous mission Rowan himself led years ago. It was the mission that haunted him, the one where he made a wrong call that cost several soldiers their lives. For years he carried the shame quietly, convinced no one but the surviving officers knew. But the report tells another story. It reveals that a recovery team was sent days later to retrieve the remaining men and secure intelligence. And leading that recovery was Lieutenant Mara Hale. She wasn't even required to go. She volunteered. Rowan's eyes burn as he reads how she climbed unstable cliffs under fire, pulled 2 injured soldiers from beneath collapsed rock, and recovered sensitive documents that prevented the mission from being recorded as a total failure. The final line hits him hardest. Without her intervention, the commanding officer's reputation and future operations integrity would have been severely compromised. He exhales sharply, almost a gasp. The woman standing silently in his office wasn't just a decorated soldier. She was the unseen force who once protected him from professional ruin. Asking nothing in return, never speaking of it, never seeking credit. For the first time, Rowan truly looks at Mara, not as a subordinate, not as a challenge to his ego, but as a soldier carved by storms he couldn't survive. His anger evaporates, replaced by a deep, heavy respect that tightens his chest. Everything he thought he knew shatters in that moment. Major Rowan closes the file slowly, as if the weight of its truth has aged him years and seconds. The room feels different now, quieter, heavier, like the air itself is holding its breath. Mara stands exactly as she has from the beginning, steady, calm, unreadable. She doesn't know what part of her past he has reached. She doesn't know that her silence is no longer the quiet of a subordinate, but the quiet of someone Rowan suddenly realizes he owes everything to. He rises from his chair, but the usual authority in his posture is gone. When he steps around his desk, Mara instinctively straightens even more, expecting the worst. Rowan stops in front of her, close enough to feel the tension in the air, and for a few seconds he just looks at her. Not with anger, not with judgment, with something closer to awe. "Lieutenant." His voice breaks before he can regain control. He tries again, softer. "I misread you." Mara says nothing. She doesn't defend herself, doesn't question him. She simply waits. The way soldiers who have seen too much always do, patient, disciplined, bracing for whatever comes next. But what comes next is something no one at Fort Ridge has ever seen. Rowan lifts his hand, not to reprimand her, not to hand her paperwork, but to salute her. A full formal salute. A major saluting a lieutenant. A reversal that shakes Mara's expression for the first time. Her eyes widen just slightly, the only visible crack in her iron composure. "You've done more for this uniform than most of us ever will," Rowan says. His tone is not that of a superior officer, but of a man finally acknowledging a debt he never knew he owed. The punishment is dismissed, permanently. She nods, but he isn't finished. He hands her a sealed folder, a new assignment. Not disciplinary, not corrective, a leadership role. "I want you to train the incoming rescue unit," Rowan says. They need a leader who knows what real courage looks like. Someone they can trust with their lives. Someone like you. The words ripple through her chest like a slow, unexpected warmth. Not pride. Not relief. Recognition. When she steps out of the office, soldiers notice something different, not about her, but in how Rowan watches her go. For the first time, he sees her not as a quiet shadow in his unit, but as the backbone he never realized he had. And from that day on, no one at Fort Ridge ever underestimated silence again.